What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode on EI Entertainment Studios. Back at it with another debate episode. Today, we're going to be talking about Nidhogg versus Shin Biolante. Now, this is the second debate video where I've done Norse mythology, and I love it. Especially that God of War Ragnarok is coming out. I'm really invested into Norse mythology, and it's actually very interesting. So here's the plan, folks. We're gonna go over the backstory analysis, essentially go over all their characteristics of each of these two kaiju's, Shinbayalante and Nidhogg. Once we're done with that, we're gonna put them up against each other in a death battle. So without further ado, let's begin with Nidhogg. So Nidhogg, whose name actually means Malice Striker, is a powerful Norse dragon. He resides in the roots of the ash tree, which holds 9 of the realms. In appearance, Nidhogg is a massive dragon with 2 giant front claws. Now, for the abilities, I'm gonna do a quick skim. We'll come over it once we finish off all the other stuff. So just a quick skim. So the first one is speed, strength, extremely sharp teeth, claws, and the horn strike. As I said, we'll come back to it and do a deep analysis, so don't worry. The next one is territorial, medium, aggression high, and biome of Nidhogg is the world tree. Now, going back to the abilities, the first one we have speed. Now, this one is kind of a given because this thing is a dragon, right? It's a huge dragon, giant enough to take over a universe, essentially. And the dragon can attack in high speeds, defend in high speeds, meaning he can escape, he can attack. He's slippery, slipey, whatever you want to call that. Slippery, slipey. How snakes are. Strength. This is a big one. If you look at the depictions of Nidhogg, you're gonna come to understand how thick the skin is and how much muscle has to be inside of this flesh of the snake. So it's definitely gonna be super strong. In terms of defending itself, I would assume this dragon would be able to do a tail swipe, right? Like like how Godzilla does it with his tail and hits his opponent's heads and knocks them out. And in the case of the Muto in Godzilla 2014, the male one kills him. So I wouldn't be too surprised if Nidhogg can kill things with his tail whips via his strength of the tail, right? The next one is his teeth. He has extremely sharp teeth. They're gigantic. And I would assume, depending on the creature he's fighting or the god he's going against, some flesh could be broken through and that teeth will just rip out the guts, right? And then the claws, not super long limbs to use the claws, but I would assume super close range, the claws would be pretty versatile. And then he also has horns, so he could probably stab his opponents with the horns. So nothing super crazy like the other things we've seen in the past, but still, this is pretty impressive for this creature. All right, that's fine. Now let's go over Shinbayalante. Now you're gonna notice I didn't go over the specific height of Nidhogg, and that's for a specific reason, and I'll go over that once we finish Shinbayalante. So Shinbayalante's backstory is as follows. Shinbayalante came into existence when the coagulant that was sprayed into Shin Godzilla's mouth, right before he froze, one of the small humanoids was able to fall off the tail before all of them froze. From a long fall, the humanoid was bleeding and looked for a place to rest and happened to come across a field of roses and thought that they could be food. The humanoid started eating all the roses and his DNA mixed with all of the roses he had devoured, including the blood he spilled on the ones he didn't eat. The roses came alive, of course because of the blood, and decapitated the humanoid and formed into Shin Biolante. Essentially, this is half Godzilla, or half, I should say, half Shin Godzilla and half Biolante. Now, the height, I will go over for this one, is 252 meters, so she is a massive girl. For those who don't know, Shin Biolante is a female. Abilities, quick skim, same process. Spiked atomic laser, 10,000 tentacles, tentacle poison laser, regeneration, instant adaptation, false heart trap. We'll go over them, in more deep analysis once we finish her. Territorial is high, aggression is low, and biome is actually unlimited. And if you don't know why, I will be explaining it in the abilities right now. So the first one is spiked atomic laser, and this is coming from Shin DNA. If anybody here has seen the movie Shin Godzilla or is aware of Shin Godzilla's ability to shoot lasers from the back of his dorsal plates, that's because he can shoot lasers throughout his body, not just his mouth, like the atomic breath, so to speak, right? So this DNA carries over to Shinbayalante, and she can use the spiked atomic laser. Well, this is a little bit different. I'm going to explain, but the atomic laser, in essence, is all over the body, just like Shin's was. The difference is this has rose DNA, and roses have giant thorns. So imagine a massive, well, not just one, but millions of giant thorns infused in a laser getting shot at an opponent. So it's not just a laser, but giant thorns in the laser. And that is very, very scary, if you think about it. The next one is 10,000 Tentacles. So essentially the same thing as, say, a regular Biolante who has 4 tentacles. This one has 10,000 of them. Now, the interesting thing is the next ability would be the Tentacle Poison Laser, where each 10,000 of these tentacles have lasers that essentially they can numb the opponent, and they don't know. When I say they, obviously I'm speaking in the perspective of the opponent. It doesn't know when to stop, because if you're hurt and you're bleeding out of your body and you're still attacking without feeling pain, well, you're gonna die. And it's a very, very powerful ability. The next one is Regeneration and Instant Adaptation. I'm going to go over these together. Again, I'm going to repeat it. Regeneration, Instant Adaptation. And this kind of, well, not kind of, it directly explains why the biome is unlimited. So if you're interested on that one, hear me out here. Shin Godzilla, obviously it's a Shin DNA. So Shin Godzilla, in the first film, went from Form 1 to Form 3 to Form 4. Now, specifically to Form 2 to 3, happened within 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and we don't really know how long it took him to change from 3 to 4. I'm assuming probably the same amount, although he escaped to the ocean, so we can't really tell. The adaptation was instantaneous from Form 2 to Form 3 because of his inherent DNA and how advanced his cellular make is. So because of that, that has carried over to Shinbayalante. And speaking of that, with the instant adaptation, the regeneration is also part of that, because of his DNA being quickly adaptable, he can regenerate his health and his wounds and everything quite quickly. And these two together are introduced into Shinbayalante's DNA, and because the biome, why it's unlimited, is because he can instantly adapt to fit the environment. He can change from Form 2 to Form 3. He changed to fit the environment of walking on the land. So same with Shinbayalante. She can adapt to fit any environment because of the adaptative ability. Alright, that was a mouthful. Finally, we have False Heart Trap, which is a mirror blast, essentially. And if you look at a regular Biolante, not the Shin version, but a regular one, she has a big heart. That's how Godzilla killed her in the film. This one is actually a trap. It's a mirror. It's fake. It's not the actual heart. The heart is actually in the head, near the brain. So the False Heart Trap, essentially, as an example, I've said this before, but let's say Godzilla uses the atomic breath on Shinbayalante's heart plate, or in this case, False Heart Trap, then what's going to happen is the atomic breath is going to mirror right back. And anything you do is going to mirror right back. Like your arm will literally turn back and hit you. That's the False Heart Trap. And it's the biggest part of Biolante that's open and vulnerable, so to speak. And it's very susceptible for opponents to use that. And they're going to get hit right back because of that. Okay, folks. Before I move on, the reason why I didn't include Nidhogg's size is because he is... the way he is introduced is that he is enormous, right? He's huge, and he's like basically big enough to take over a universe. So please forgive me about this, but for the sake of debate, to make it debatable, I want to make this somewhat fair, but I also, clearly Nidhogg has the advantage in size, and it would be unjustified for me to make him smaller than Shin Biolante, so we're not going to do that. But because Shin Biolante is 252 meters tall, we're going to say, for the sake of the debate, that Nidhogg will be 600 meters. So almost double. A little bit more than that, but essentially you get the point. Almost double of Shin Biolante. In real life, he'll be probably quadruple, but for the sake of debate, we're still giving him the size advantage. So we'll go with Nidhogg at 600 meters long, tall, however you want to say it. Essentially his size. And Shin Biolante will stay at 252. Okay, so this is what we're going to do in the death battle. Close range and far range. The reason why I do this is because in far range, some abilities are going to be limited. And because of that, we're trying to see if an opponent can win in long range, and it's a good way to test them. If they can't, well, they're obviously losing in 1/2 of the way of fighting, because you're either fighting from far distance or you're fighting from close distance. Now, obviously, close distance is more practical, but that's still a possibility, right, for far range. And close range, essentially, is just, face-to-face, no rules, and all that stuff. So, now, we're going to go over far range, and the rule is 700 meters apart. They cannot come closer than 700 meters apart. That means there's absolutely no physical contact. So let's see what abilities Nidhogg can or cannot use to see if he will pass the test. And see if he does have any, then we'll see what he can do against Shin Biolante. So speed, well, that's just a quality that doesn't depend on attacking, so that doesn't even matter. Strength, again, that's a quality. Extremely sharp teeth. Okay, he has teeth, but he can't bite the opponent because they're 700 meters apart, so he can't use the teeth. The claws would be the same thing. He needs to claw his way. And then we have the horn strike. And the horn strike, well, he needs to physically stab his opponent. This same thing happened with the previous opponent we did in Norse mythology, which was essentially the world serpent. And yeah, he forfeited, and Nidhogg is going to forfeit in far range because he has nothing to fight with. And this is quite rare, I've said in my debate videos. I still have to find a monster or some type of mythical creature from Norse mythology that will not forfeit the far range. I'm still looking for it. Leave in the comment section below because I will be so curious to do that one. But clearly, Nidhogg has nothing to actually use that his body can send out. So clearly, he's going to forfeit. So I'm not even going to go over Shin Biolante because he forfeited. And because of that, Shin Biolante automatically wins in far range, right? We're not done yet. So now let's go to close range. Close range is face-to-face, no limits. So again, I'll just read it just for the sake of the argument. For Nidhogg, speed, strength, extremely sharp teeth, claws, horn strike, all of them he can use it. Perfect. For Shin Biolante, spiked atomic laser. Oh, essentially he can use everything, right? But I'll just go over it quickly. Spiked atomic laser, 10,000 tentacles, tentacle poison laser, regeneration, instant adaptation, false heart trap. So now, face to face, Nidhogg absolutely towers. Completely. I mean, we said it, 600 meters for the sake of the debate. He towers over Shin Biolante. But let's not forget Shin Biolante can adapt and evolve. But something about the Nidhogg is interesting, specifically about his characteristics, about the strength, the speed, and just how menacing this creature looks. Shin Biolante is clearly going to be the first one to attack, at least from what I'm understanding about the characteristics of these monsters. I feel like Shin Biolante is going to be more provoked, just because, not of Shin DNA, because Shin is more calm, but Biolante's DNA. And I think it's going to be the spiked atomic laser. But I'm going to be completely honest here. The spiked atomic laser is, I'm sure it's going to do some damage, but the skin and the complete, I should say, like the complete makeup of the skin of Nidhogg, for some reason, like so much thorns over his body, I don't think it'll do some damage, but I don't think it's gonna penetrate through. And it's gonna deem utterly useless, including the 10,000 tentacles, right? The 10,000 tentacles, What are they gonna do against a 600-meter monster? So I feel like whenever the Nidhogg attacks with his tail whip or some type of his body, Shin Biolante is gonna get thrown across the sky. Now we can make the argument that Shin Biolante can use the instant adaptation to adapt and essentially evolve her abilities to fit. And yes, to an extent, she can do that. But the issue here is she can't really outgrow the size of um, Nidhogg. But here's the thing with the World Serpent, I said she could win, and I still stand by that. I believe that Shin Biolante can beat the World Serpent, and I have my own reasons in the debate video, the previous one. But for Nidhogg, it's just the makeup of the body. For some reason, it's so aggressive, and I just don't see any way how Shin Biolante can like even by the abilities of trying to match them. I don't see how she can evolve and adapt to this with the speed, the strength of Nidhogg. I think she's a goner. She might adapt to, split in half and live on a certain different way, but she's most definitely not going to beat Nidhogg, making her lose this. So it's going to be 1-1, going to essentially overtime, and we're going to go over only the pure abilities for overtime. So, and we're going to see who wins. So we're going to go off of pure abilities. So Shin Biolante has Spiked Atomic Laser, 10,000 Tentacles, Tentacle Poison Laser, Regeneration, Instant Adaptation, False Heart Trap. So great abilities, right? However, comparing to Nidhogg, Nidhogg has Speed, Strength, Extremely Sharp Teeth, Claws, and the Horn Strike. Now, you may have already decided who won, and personally, when I look at these, Shin Biolante's abilities are a bit more appealing to me, but I'm gonna do what you guys probably didn't expect, and I think I'm gonna give it to Nidhogg. Not only the abilities, and I know, well, now you can make the argument that I'm violating my own rules. Yes, I'm taking in the consideration of the abilities, but I'm also it's the speed and the strength with the ultimate size. Well, you can take in the size of the opponent in essence, and I just think with all the facts on the side of Nidhogg and Shin Biolante, personally, I think Nidhogg will take this one. A very close one, in terms of score. It's going to be 2-1 because of overtime, but it was a close one. But I think Nidhogg is going to take it. I'd be very interested to see what you guys have to say in the comment section below. But yeah, I'm going to go with Nidhogg on this one. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a great and wonderful day.